Welcome, one and all, to another round of the Musings. Today, I'm just going to jump straight into what I'll be talking about if I have my notes up, which I don't. Eep. Today, I'm going to be talking about reading and goal setting a little bit. And also, I want to clarify my why, how, and what from the episode 173 on podcasting. So I want to talk a little bit about more about that. Yep.
All right, mine is. I just want to touch a little bit on the boat in the Suez Canal.
Oh yes.
And what I mean by that is throughput and the goal. If you've read the book.
Okay.
And giving, truly the way to finding joy. So
nice.
Maybe showing a little bit of something like that.
Sounds good. All right, so I'm just going to jump into the why, how, and what. So. Why has this been coming up a lot? Well, I've been reading Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. Now, he's got another book, I think it's called How to Find Your Why, or Finding Your Why, something like that. Mm-hmm. So this was more just him talking about his concept of the golden circle. So it's the why right in the middle, the how, and then the what. Yep. And he sort of explains how a lot of companies, but when I was reading this, I actually didn't mention this in the book review, but when reading it, I was thinking, man, I can actually apply this to my life. Like, this is actually something that can be useful for me. Even though the whole time he was just talking about organizations and structures, I was thinking, you know what, I can use this for myself.
Well, it's like you're an organization of one.
Yeah, exactly. So I sort of had a little bit more of a go, but I wanted to expand it out here.
Okay.
And really try and nail it down a little bit more, why I do the podcast. And this is just for me. You know, we sort of have slightly different ones. But I wanted to do that. So the why. So the why is something that should be clear. It should be, I suppose, easy to explain. So why I do the podcast? Because I want to make the world a better place. And I believe to do that, I need to make myself a better person. Now, part of this as well for the podcast is, so the podcast I would put into almost the how category of that. So that's sort of the verbs and actions, like how am I doing things and how am I going to make the world a better place? It sort of goes into that. It can get messy when you're trying to get the why, how, and what. An important detail of that was it's to demonstrate, not tell. So I'm not telling you this is how I'm making myself a better person. Yeah. It's more, no, this is demonstrating me how I think for me to become a better person. And then, you know, sort of expand from there, in essence. So it's not just real selfish, like, I want to make lots of money, make myself better in that way, or make myself the most beautiful, lips injected, Botox in the face, looking 23 years old again. No, it's not for that, because it's steeped in the making the world a better place. And so I think that's the key step into it. It's like, make the world a better place. I'm going to do it by making myself better. So if I'm doing things that would make myself better but are hurting others, so say, for example, I wanted to work on my people skills, but I was doing it in a way where I was like, just using people trying
to get better at your people skills by trafficking humans and talking politely with the or mafia heads,
or like going out, or like learning more about psychology and treating people like shit to find out
in order
what
to prove your hypothesis.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. So, but it's like, no, you can't do that. You're trying to make the world a better place. So,
well, see, it's interesting because the why sometimes can be very. See, this way can get a little bit prickly because the why can be very similar to another person's. But then the how can very, very quickly change how it is that you're going about it. So one thing I was seeing around Elon Musk, and, why is he hoarding all his money? And obviously this might not be his reason, but he posted it on Twitter as to why does he have all this wealth and why not give it away and all this sort of stuff. And his reasoning of, I guess, why was because he wants to be able to use his wealth to free humans to be interplanetary species. I guess that and whatever else. Now, I don't know if that's his actual why or not. I'm just going to take it at face value. That's what he posted on Twitter. So let's say that that's his why. So, but his how is to make a lot of money in other areas, or to push Tesla and to push SpaceX and everything else. That's his how. Now, that in some part and way is him making a lot of money accumulated to then be able to do that. So, like, is that the best way to do it? whatever. I think we've had this conversation before. Is Mother Teresa or Bill Gates? Like, who helps the world
who is
more?
Better?
Well, technically, Bill Gates has helped more humans on Earth than Mother Teresa. Just that Mother Teresa's been doing it maybe all her life and is very pure at heart. Now, they probably have the same why, some levels of why behind there, but their how is completely different, and then that leads to their what to be, complete differences as opposed to what you would kind of note it down to the why. So I don't think, like, even when you say that why, I don't think if you really asked lots of people, they wouldn't say it straight away, but if you kind of explain to them like, oh, would you want to help humanity while becoming better? I think a lot of people would say, oh yeah, I would. Oh yes, I would. I think it gets differentiated in the how. I think the how really distinctly changes that. Yeah. But I would almost push back to you and say that I like that why, but I think it's not refined enough. Yeah, I'd say it's not refined enough.
I would agree with that. Like this, I read his book and like I've got it, people. It's done. It's done. No,
you know how Simon talks about Apple. Obviously the famous example. And he talks about the why is they want to craft beautiful, simple to use machines.
No. The why was we want to challenge the status quo and be like rule breakers essentially. That was their why. Okay.
And how was providing whatever it was.
Providing us like simple to use, easy products that like anyone could attempt to, and then the
what's like,
and
laptop,
then the what
phone.
Is like, we've got a laptop,
we have a phone, we have an iPod, we have etc. Right, Macintosh. So all those things, as opposed to looking at it, and I think what Simon says is rather than looking at it in that like, oh, here's the object that I'm doing, oh, how could I do that? Oh, why am I doing it? Oh, because I'm going to make whatever it may be. Just be led by the why at the center. Just know that, like you're saying, it does take a long time to figure out that why. Like, we probably talked about it in the podcast a long time before, but also I remember me saying this to other people. It's like why is probably one of the most important things you'll ever find out in your life. And it's also one of the hardest things you'll find out, because it's not like you can just start all of a sudden being like, oh, what's my why? And tomorrow you'll figure it out. Like, no, it's probably changes throughout your life, probably takes you a lot of years to figure out based on who you are as a human, how you interact, the systems that you play in, whether you want it to be a finite game or an infinite game, because sometimes you can have a why that's finite. Like, you can totally figure out a why that says like, oh, well, I want to do this because it's in the boundary of whatever.
Grant Hackett, I want to win a gold medal. Yeah, that's why I'm doing this intense training. That's why I'm
and that's
finite.
There's a finite. There's an actual something to win. There's as Simon says, there's X amount of players in that game.
Yeah, or I mean, actually,
there's distinct rules.
It might even be worth asking, because maybe his why is slightly different. Maybe it's I want to push myself to the absolute limit, and so winning the gold medal.
Yeah, how is getting a gold medal? What in swimming in this particular style? Yeah. But you could make a claim that you could be very specific and be finite. Yeah. But yours is in the infinite space. Like, there isn't a win. Yeah. Like, there isn't a level where you're going to be like, you can tick it off and say like,
world's done. World's done. It's finished.
World's finished.
We're all done here, people.
I've reached like maximum benefit, like personal improvement, and the world's better. Completely bested. Excellent, done. Yeah. So I think there's a lot to the finite and infinite game that I still want to explore, because I conceptually get it, but I want to see it play out in more places. And we'll talk about the Lex Simon conversation they had probably in a different podcast. But to me, I was like, oh, there's still something to explore in there that I want to talk about.
Before you get onto yours, so the how. So I think this is sort of getting to you said the differentiator. In the book, he talks, the why needs to be really clear. The how needs to be sort of disciplined. So disciplined in sticking to your why. And then the what needs to be consistent. So you need to be consistently doing that over and over and over. So the discipline section for me. So how I do that, I think to achieve my why through setting goals related to my personal values. So also figuring out those personal values, communicating the lessons I'm learning through this process, improving personal skills, and then actually, spending time to sit down and sort all of this out. So that is the how, and then the what from all of that is the meanderings. It's having conversations with you. It's doing the book reviews. It's connecting with people on our Instagram. So, when people ask what you do, the next time someone asks me like, what do you do? I really want to try and stop it and be like, No, that's the wrong question. I get what you're trying to get at, but I think asking, why are you doing the podcast instead of what the podcast is about is a better question. Now that might be even, not the. If I did that to everyone, maybe I'd learn okay, maybe people don't want that.
Don't
maybe
give an
they
absolute
just,
shit
of
why. They're asking you the what.
Yeah.
I think I would probably spin that around and just say, and I agree with what you're saying, if someone, because I've tended to do that somewhat, maybe to the how, but not all the way to the why, that if someone asked me what are you doing? I think just an easier way would be and start at the why and being I want to do this.
Just starting that straight away.
We've decided to be that, blah, blah, blah. This is how it actually comes about. So if someone says, why are you doing a Musings? Well, I want to learn to better myself while, etc. And I found that to do that, I have to talk to a lot of people and converse with people and share my thoughts. And so that led me to actually do the podcast in this particular topics.
Yeah.
Because then you're talking it through. Rather than forcing someone nah, shut the fuck up. You're an idiot.
Shit.
This is why you don't ask that question. First of all, go and read 2 books from Simon Sinek. Then come back and talk to me.
Get into the impolite. Every conversation I have is impolite.
Yeah. Whenever someone talks to you and doesn't say the exact perfect words, it's
wrong question.
Yeah. Get out of my view. Peasant. You're not a mere mortal. You're submortal. My little short one, just want to talk about was the giving. Truly is a good way to find joy. So obviously me and Karen very recently did a volunteering session together.
Mm-hmm.
It was great fun. It was for the MS Moonlight Walkathon. A walk, I guess. It was just good fun. We had good time just spinning glow sticks, listening to music, directing people. We were road marshals.
I think we did an okay job. No one got hurt in front of us, even though there was some bikers and scooters going past at tremendous rates.
We should have heard them.
Oh, yeah.
We should have heard them. But no, it was obviously good fun, and it just reinforced what I'd recently read, obviously, in Jay Shetty's How to Think Like a Monk, around, there was first 2 of, first learning and growing and within yourself, but then you kind of hit it in towards the end about in giving and being to be truly successful and joyous and happy in your life, you have to do some giving. And it helped sort of add an extra little nail in the proverbial coffin of saying, yes, this is why. I wouldn't say coffin. Let's call it painting. The painting of success and joy and happiness. It was an extra little, maybe extra brush onto it to say yep, giving does put you in this good state, happy state, because I felt like that the whole evening and even into the next day, I was that was good fun and just thinking about it, as opposed to me spending those exact same hours in a more self-righteous, selfish way of, I don't know, reading or watching a movie or something else. It was okay, this was doing work for other people, not on yourself. But in the end, you take away so much more joy and happiness from it. So I was yep, that was good.
Well, what do you think the value, though, was in terms of how much we actually did on that night? So we were only out there for, 3 to 4 hours? Well, actual work that we were doing was probably
an hour.
Yeah, not even that. It was probably two 20-minute sessions of directing people. And that was about it.
Yeah.
I find it hard. I see all those things and I see how it was useful, and then I also ask myself is that the most useful thing that I could be doing? It's I don't know. I find it hard.
In its elemental core of, if you want to say helping humanity, and you can define that in many ways, but you're saying extending human life or helping humans. No, it isn't. It actually isn't.
Yeah.
But I guess if I had to put some terminology to it, I'd say, well, let's just say there was 300 people that went by us, and each one of those 300 people got maybe an extra 5 seconds of joy and happiness or safety or help from us. So in total, it would be,
that's a good way of putting
5 hours worth of this positivity and joy that I took in doing it in 1 hour. And so it's okay, well, I put in 1 hour and I was able to give to humanity as a whole 5 hours of joy and positivity. So for me, it's cool, I can take that away and feel that that extra... my tentacles reached out more than even my time is worth.
Yeah,
so maybe you could code it in that way.
Yeah, no, I think that's a real good way of looking at it. That's a great way, in fact, of looking at it. I think that's very helpful.
So, but I could see someone in an opposite side saying, "Oh yes, but if you'd gone to the hospital and helped out people dying, you would have helped out more." Sure, that's true as well.
Have you seen my surgeon skills? Have you seen Juan's fat fingers? There's no...
I would have killed them. No, I mean, sewing them and just be oops, I've just destroyed their brain. Sorry about that, folks. Yeah. I want to talk you to my second one as well. So, Suez Canal and the Unlucky Evergreen, I think it's called, the boat there, maybe. Anyways, For most people, you would have heard about it. If you haven't, go and check out. Just type in Suez Canal boat. I don't know what this dude was doing, but fortunately, he's got himself stuck, and he stopped a lot of global trade going through. And someone quoted, so obviously this might be wrong, but someone said it today, that it was costing $2.9 billion a day to the company. I don't know if it was because of like their own shipment being late, or because they're having to pay for everybody else who's stuck. I don't know if that's all true or not, but let's just say it's a lot of money that's costing them.
For sure.
But what it made me think about, talking about that, is throughput. So it's like that particular area, which is in Egypt, I believe, the Suez Canal. It's in that area between like Africa and Europe connection, and gets people going from the north to the south and south to the north, rather than going all the way around Africa. It's a tiny little man-made, I guess, river stream setup, right? And it's a very, very tight throughput area. And as you can see, it's like as soon as this little piece of it comes blocked, that's it. Like the throughput of it, like everything stops. Even if you up at the very top, like when you're doing your producing, you're creating your boats, you're getting your shuttles to go the right way, you're timing all the boats. As soon as this little thing messes up, it's like messed everything up. And I don't know if you know this book called The Goal. It was written, I think it was in 1984, but it was republished a couple of times, and it's a very like management business book that focuses on the actual theory of throughput, and in particularly in factories. And it's this whole story about how there's one factory is doing really, really shit in comparison to a lot of other factories, and it's going to get run down. And then this engineer / manager starts coming into it and applies the theory of throughput to actually make it a lot better. And the whole reasoning of throughput is, imagine if you've got a process that has 17 parts and maybe 4 or 5 different like network channels, you're going to find that one of them is actually your throughput limit. So in terms of if you were to put a piece of work from the very beginning to the end, you're going to find that some areas in the system can handle like quadruple the load, but you actually have like one piece in there that's the limit. And that could be like limited by the process, limited by the people, limited by the machinery. And then he basically just like started going through and being like, okay, well, what's our minimum piece that's keeping us from doing it? Oh, it's this. And then it's the people. And then it's this. And so we increase cost, etc. By the end of the book, it's like, it's going really well. The factory's going amazing. It's actually going better than any of the others. And then he moves on to go and do it to other places. And I don't know if it was based on real life plus just a bit of a storytelling kind of book. But in any case, just like that. Now, can you think of something, so that throughput theory, whether it's in your personal life, because I wouldn't say in your work life, I guess, but in your or in your podcasting that you do right now, so like in the podcasting work that you're doing, or in your life, can you think of something where you could improve your throughput, whatever that may be? So the actual, let's just say you're expending energy to achieve an outcome. Is there something in your system or in your processes that you could look from a little bit higher view and go, you know what? That's probably my big blocker right now. Like that's the thing, is probably keeping me from operating at a faster pace and producing more outcomes, something like that.
Yeah. I suppose one thing is, so for those who don't know, I do book reviews both in English and in Spanish, and it's just a real easy way of creating basically a whole new podcast, whole new way of practicing my own Spanish, all this extra stuff. It does require extra work, but every single one of the Spanish things relies on me doing it initially in English, so that one piece of notes that I take for that book, from then on, that's when I can do all other things. I can do like the English stuff, like start recording, doing the editing and whatnot, that whole process, and I use those same exact notes to make the process of the captions and the timestamps and stuff on the actual YouTube video. Like, it's real easy to just look at the notes, be like, okay, yep, I write this in the YouTube sort of comments, and then all that goes onto Instagram as well. So that one thing, finishing the book and then writing up that English, like those notes for it in English, then allows me to do all this other stuff. So that's definitely one, for sure, in the podcasting world.
Yep.
In my own life, yeah, I'd have to think of that. You got any examples?
Well, I was going to say, so for me, for work, and so this is an interesting one because I don't know whether it's a solvable one or not, and it could translate into personal as well. It's driving. I'm going to say driving for me would be a big blocker to achieving a lot of other outcomes. So what do I mean by that in a throughput sense? So I think that driving is probably, or largely, a part that there's a lot of wasted time in the movement of me going somewhere to achieve something. So looking at it that way, what it makes me think, so if I'm looking at a high level, it's okay, where am I traversing to? Well, I'm going all the way north like 30 kilometers, south like 40 kilometers, and somewhere in the middle, then going back and forth. And in particular, I was thinking about this because in the next week, I'm doing, like, there's a lot of places I'm supposed to be, a lot of things that's going on, and if I don't effectively plan a lot of things out, my throughput or the outcomes I want to achieve are going to go way down just because I'm going to be trying to travel all these different places. And even if I'm getting things done during while I'm driving, like listening to a podcast or something else, I'm still not achieving the outcomes that I'm trying to get to in the week because I'm just moving around all over the place. So it almost, now, am I going to do this? I don't know. Like, I've got to think about it. But it's like, okay, well, if I was located in a different place, would it improve the outcomes that I'm achieving? Or could I centralize some of the things I'm trying to do on a daily basis so that I try to compile things into a particular area? That way I'm getting everything done in that particular space and not having to move around. Because I can see in some days, like say today, I personally had to, wake up, and then because I didn't have some of the things I needed on hand, had to drive, I'd say, like a whole hour to another location. Now I ended up going to the gym and all this sort of stuff, but still, I had to waste an extra hour of movement of getting to another place to still achieve the same outcomes. And I think with better planning, or maybe better location for me, I think throughput would improve dramatically.
Yeah.
So that's to me, I'd say one that could go across both things.
Yeah, I'd maybe think of this more as like a linchpin thing, but when I stretch, that triggers a whole cascade of events for me. So when I've sort of like got, I guess, my morning routine done, and then my afternoons sort of revolve around this real sequential order of things. So like I stretch, at the same time I'm stretching, I'm listening to like a new podcast. I'll then, do a shout out for that podcast, and that triggers me to go exercise. After exercising, I come back immediately and I like have a shower immediately after that.
Yep.
After that is then I've got, this period for editing videos and etc. So if I screw it up and I leave it too late, or I just do something wrong, I'll notice that if I don't put in that time for stretching, everything else becomes so much harder. It becomes so much more unorganized. Okay. I'm more likely to skip things or miss things out, or all sorts of I suppose less productive, less efficient.
Less than ideal.
Yeah, less than ideal. Just circumstances arise. So that's probably one where it's if I don't get that right, it sort of screws up everything else. Whereas if I do the stretching and then I just don't have time to fit in the workout, that's fine. Like I'll do all the other stuff and it's okay. But yeah, that's probably
there
my
you
one.
go. Okay, good.
Yeah. I had a pretty deep conversation with my dad recently, and one of the things he was telling me about was reading. So I've been talking about how much reading I've been doing and studying stuff like that, and I was sort of realizing that maybe this is just a phase that I'm going through right now, and that I shouldn't confuse the method for the goal. So like the goal of reading is to expand my mind, to get more connections, to become more knowledgeable on certain things, to be able to converse better with other people. It's not to say that I've read X amount of books per year, or
certainly
it's not to read just so that I can do the podcast, which I've said I'd do, which that plays a part. That consistency part does play. It's important to if you say you're going to do something, you bloody do it.
Yep.
But that shouldn't be the reason for doing all that. And so he was actually telling me a little bit about some of the things that he did wrong when he was young. And so here's a little knowledge for you. Here's a little
knowledge bomb.
A little
knowledge bomb from the king.
A little bit of interesting from Daddy Down, which is
Daddy
he used to read. He could read eight hours a day. He could read like 10 hours a day. He was telling me when he was going through certain periods of his life where. Now, he was a teacher, my mum was a teacher, so they had a lot of, like, very nice schedules and holidays together. But when he was focusing on not on all these other like little things that he had going on. He used to do coding back in the day. He wrote a grammar book. He used to do all these like crazy things. Like he was, the more I talked to him, I'm like, holy shit, you did a lot of stuff that. But he would read 8 hours a day if he could. And
wow, okay.
one of the things he was saying that he actually regrets was
Not reading enough.
my mum at some point was saying like, we should spend more time together. We should do, I wish that you would stop reading as much so that we could do
Other activities.
Yeah, activities. Now he loved it. He loved reading. He is, I can see why I can read. I feel bad only reading like 45 minutes a day because I could read so much more. But yeah, it just got me thinking like, oh, I should watch out for that because, well, that's something he's done, and I'm so like him that's likely a thing
You
that
could emulate something like
a trap I could fall into as well, which would be being, I guess, selfish and reading for, not with the total end goal in mind, which is, to make the world and myself a better place.
Yeah.
So
Because if you're shutting yourself off to go and learn or read for like 10 years or something, and all of a sudden you come out like, I'm ready.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh, well, it's too late. Like, nobody actually cares at that point now.
Yeah, so that's just something I would say like a little call out for me and for the listeners as well. If you
Well, I'll give another example of it for the listeners. So I'm reading Jordan Peterson's book still, right? And there came almost a decision point where I could go and spend, let's say I've got 3 hours left, and spend an extra 3 hours during the last couple of days and really just hardcore read it, speed through it. Some of those would be tired. Maybe I would take in about 50% of what was left on it, make my notes, do the review of it, and just get it out there. And there was parts of me thinking, yeah, I'll just do that. But yeah, in the same sense, it just made me think, well, am I doing this because I'm trying to learn the content? Or am I doing this because I just want to go and do the book review and then keep on going? So I'll have to make a call to being like, okay, well, yes, I could do it and do the book review. However, for me, the value isn't... Like, the value in me is reading the book for my own personal benefit and then being able to share that. But it's not the other way around. It's not like the value is I share it with you and maybe on the side I get some benefit. Like, no. It's me reading a book for my own benefit to benefit others. And obviously the side benefit there is that I get to share it with others and be able to bounce around those ideas.
Yeah, and that's why you're not going to see book reviews from us, which are 2 out of 10s. Reading the whole book through and just to be like, wow, that was shit. That was
like you might
tremendous waste of
you
time.
might see some 4 out of 10s and we'll be like, look, we read a couple of pages.
Yeah.
We got to we try to give it another go and nah.
Yeah, and it just made me think. So right at this very moment, I'm reading poetry by John Keats, and this is probably the first time I've really sat down and tried to read poetry, or I had the desire to. Maybe I've tried to in the past and just been like,
go away.
No thanks. And I'm noticing that I can't read it in my head because I read it as if I read a book, which is whereas with poetry, the structure in itself, the rhyming pattern is what gives it its flavor. That's half the well, I don't know half. It's a very important part of it. So I'm actually doing that by reading it out loud, which slows the reading speed to
down dramatically,
easily half. And that's okay because I'm not trying to read poetry just to say, oh, I read it. I read John Keats' poetry. It was shit. It's like, no, I'm trying to read it because I want to get the maximum out of it. Just another little thing
that's
there.
a really
if
good
you're
point.
reading poetry,
Outline.
read it out loud. So it's kind of useful.
Definitely agree with that. And Daddy Down.
Daddy down.
Daddy Down, well done.
Yeah. I've got maybe one more thing I'll talk about reading, which is a realization that my sources are getting a little bit biased, I think. If I had to look, I would say more than 50% of the books I've read have been American in the last while. Okay. And I think I'm getting...
Now, there's going to be a bias towards that anyways, because that's probably the majority of publications are going to be coming from the US, but...
See, that there is, but I'm not sure they make up half of all books. Maybe they do. Anyway, I'm going to diversify. Everyone talks about diversity. It's been good. So I'm gonna.
How are you going to diversify?
So I'm going to try and do it by a little bit by author gender. So because I actually don't read that much by women. It just doesn't pop up as much. And then by country as well. So this is me as an experimentation. Maybe I'll do this and realize like, oh shit,
this is why I don't do this.
This is why. It's because they're rubbish.
But it's interesting though. You say that because The Alchemist, right? That's Brazilian. You know, and maybe you wouldn't think to go down that path, and perhaps you might encounter these books and be like, oh damn, this is sick. This is really good.
Yeah, well, like
if you want to stick around with American, let's say storytellers or whatever it may be, like book writers, you'll never read Dostoevsky or Gulliver Archipelago.
For sure. Yeah. No. So I'm definitely my strategy will still be, you know, the best Australian author. If I'm not going to just pick up
a random Australian author.
One. I'll try and look at the best, which I think are things like, I believe Patrick Voss has a book, or Patrick White, can't remember, called Voss maybe. Things like that. So there'll still be some strategy to it, but it's not just full willy-nilly. Got to read whatever crap is out there.
You call that, I think, and I'm not going to do this very soon, but I will do it at some point in the months to come, is probably focus a little bit more into the biography space. So I really enjoyed reading biographies when I was a long time ago. Really, really enjoyed it, especially Ian Thorpe's biography. A lot of biographies from WE wrestlers and stuff like that. Yeah, I just found it reminded me of like watching an interview or a conversation, but it's, you know, an 8-hour long one where they're really explaining through a lot of things that happen. And sure, a lot of them it's just like acts and actions and things that came across. But to some of those people, like I really understand, like, oh, okay, this is why Chris Jericho is like that, and all the things that he went through, and oh man, it's really challenging for a wrestler from Canada, and blah, 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 all these things, and you really get to see into their mindset. It almost reminds me of, like, you go to a country and stay there for a month to really get to know the country. It's like, okay, if you really want to get to know what a wrestler's like, or get to really know what it is to be a swimmer, read a biography of those, and you'll really get to see the inside of it. So I'm gonna get back into it, not just yet, because I've got a lot of stuff to read through first, but I'm probably gonna go back down that path.
Yeah, I've got a little list of biographies, so if you want some of those, just let me know.
Give me a few.
So I know Malcolm X's and Gandhi's are on there.
Nah, not interested.
Nah?
No.
Neither of them?
Nope.
Okay, there you go.
Of no interest.
Let me find my book list.
I really want to read Barack Obama's autobiography.
Yeah, okay.
I think that would be cool.
So Why Orwell Matters. So there's by Christopher Hitchens talking about Orwell. The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. I don't know what that is. I've just heard.
Okay.
I don't even know who it's on, but I've just heard it made it to my biography section. Yeah. Just trying to see if there's any others. Well, Shoe Dog by Phil Knight.
Yes.
Those are the main ones that I've come up with. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Very good. We got plenty on that list, man.
I'll do this. So, look at my bloody list. It just goes on and on and on.
List. But anyways, folks, look, if listeners want to maybe check out, we're talking about books, a lot of reading.
Mate.
What are they going to do?
Mere Mortal Moments.
Hey? Oh, man, I almost forgetting Mere Mortal Moment from Musings.
You're struggling.
That's all right.
I'm going to stick with mine. Be very clear on why you're willing to sacrifice. So
good.
There's particularly related to my books. Why am I willing to sacrifice lots of time, lots of energy doing all this stuff? Got to be clear on it. Make sure I'm not doing it for the wrong why.
The wrong reasons. Yeah. Mine is just watch out for your big constraints in life. So just thinking about it from a little bit of a higher level viewpoint in a plane, you know, the constraints are the things in your life that's stopping your throughput or your outcomes, achieving them. Think about it. Maybe you can't do anything about them, but it's sometimes good to just be aware of them. Maybe you can do little changes as opposed to massive changes. Like I can't get rid of driving altogether, but maybe I can do some little things that reduce the amount of driving. So,
yeah, good.
But yes, anyways, all the reading that we were doing.
Getting back to it.
Jeez. Where can people go and find out maybe more books to listen to?
Book reviews. Book reviews. Yeah, come to the Mere Mortal Instagram page. Come to the Mere Mortal YouTube page. Come to the Mere Mortal book reviews.
Yep.
Audio. So that is on anywhere that you care to listen to. All of the platforms.
Spotify, iTunes, etc., Stitcher.
Yep. Leave us a review on those as well. That would be very helpful. Please.
All right, folks. I hope that the noise in the background hasn't been too much for you. If you can hear them, and if YouTube copyrights this for some reason, you know, one of my recent videos I posted up as one of the forums got a copyright claim.
I think you told me that. What was that for?
I don't know. There was a song in the background and it got picked up and it was like, oh, you can still post it, but you won't get any money from it.
Oh, no.
And I was like, so there you go. But anyways, folks, that's all from us here at Musings from the outside. I'm getting a little bit stung, so we're going to call it off here. Folks, that's it. One out.
Current out. Home on the range.